And so here we have the latest in the Tony Hawk series. We have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 releasing here in 2025. Now, I was pretty excited for this one. I didn't think it would happen after all those stories came out that 3+4 was pitched by Vicarious Visions and subsequently rejected, but Iron Galaxy has shown up to deliver us one of the very best Tony Hawk games of them all. I was playing this game pretty non-stop, and I gotta say, it's a really great time. Is it the most faithful remake of Pro Skater 3 and 4? No, but that doesn't mean that it's not enjoyable, and that doesn't mean that it's still not a great game. So, when it comes to this game's format and structure, it's very similar to 1+2. You choose one of many different Pro Skaters. There's actually a ton of different characters to choose from. Then you get to select either Pro Skater 3 or 4, jump into a level, and you've got a 2-minute timer. Well, you actually can extend the timer up to an hour, but it's still got that timer-based gameplay, where you get to explore around, do a bunch of crazy tricks, and of course complete some objectives. Now, if you remember correctly, Pro Skater 4 did not actually have this format to it. That was the one that introduced all of the free roaming aspects to the Tony Hawk franchise. It never had any timer-based gameplay, at least not in the main career mode. And I know that there have been a number of people disappointed that the game doesn't have the same type of career mode, and I'm a little disappointed too. I don't think that it was totally unreasonable to expect the career mode to return. However, I will say that almost all of the objectives that you would do in the original Pro Skater 4 do return in this remake. There's just now the added timer, and it feels a bit more arcadey, similar to, Pro Skater 1, 2, and 3. And speaking of Pro Skater 3, I obviously got no issue with the timer-based gameplay returning here, since that's what was in the original, and it perfectly fits here. Now, when it comes to this game's level selection, really all of the levels from Pro Skater 3 and 4 return here, but there were some changes to the Pro Skater 4 levels, and I wouldn't exactly say that this was for the best. To accommodate the new timer-based gameplay, 3 of the levels were adjusted to be levels where you just try to get as many points as possible, and I feel like these levels have been gimped as a result of that. For instance, when you go to the zoo level, there's no animals here whatsoever, and all of the weird objectives you did in Pro Skater 4 are just totally gone here. It really is just get as many points as possible, and it feels like the identity of these levels have been lost a little bit. As for all of the other levels though, these are all faithfully recreated, and they're just as great as they were in the original games, especially the Pro Skater 3 levels. Like, the Pro Skater 3 levels are just legendary. The level design is superb in every sense of the word, and even though they did mess with a few of the Pro Skater 4 levels, all of the other ones are still excellent. This game also introduces 2 new levels, the water park and this pinball level, and I actually think these are pretty great also, and they totally fit in with the other levels. There's plenty to see, there's a lot to interact with, there's some secrets, and they all have a really good flow to them. It also feels like they were meticulously laid out like the rest of the Pro Skater levels, and I think the objectives in these levels are really great also. I think the objectives in all of the levels are actually very well done. It's a shame not all of them return here, but what we actually did get are pretty solid, and they look nice too. This is a good looking game. It doesn't look absolutely fantastic, it's not going to blow you away like Death Stranding or Ghost of Tsushima, but I still think it looks very nice with some nice environments, decent lighting, some weird looking character models, but at least the animations are pretty good. And the game still absolutely has that sense of style. It's still got the same vibes as the older games, and I really fuck with it. Pro Skater 3 and 4 always had this really playful tone, and I think that's been accurately recreated here. But let's actually get into the nitty-gritty of things for a second here. Let's talk about that core moment-to-moment gameplay. It's excellent. It's superb. It really is just 1+2's gameplay carried over. But 1+2 had some pretty freaking good gameplay. The controls were excellent, the physics were superb, and it just felt really nice to play. In this game, yeah, it feels really nice to play. It's arguably the best feeling Tony Hawk game of them all. And they brought in all of the cool tricks and moves that you could do in Pro Skater 4 and Thug. So you can do all these different fancy types of tricks, combos, and maneuvers. You can string together some loony shit in this game, and yeah, it really feels nice. Of course it's gonna feel nice. It looks great, it plays great. It is exactly what you would want from a Pro Skater game, at least when it comes to how it feels on the controller and how responsive everything is. I really got no complaints there. We are far away from whatever nonsense Peak 5 had. It also certainly helps things that this game has just a fantastic flow and pace to it overall. You're going through levels pretty fast, and all of the levels do genuinely still feel really different from each other, and there's plenty of memorable moments here and there. And when it comes to how much content and secrets there are in this game, there's more than you might realize. While it won't take you more than like 7 or 8 hours to go through all of the levels, if you complete all of the goals, you actually get the pro goals, which are not fucking around. They're actually very difficult. But if you want to 100% it, you're going to be here even longer, and I think it's actually worth it. There's a lot of secrets and some really great stuff in the shop, including a number of fun characters. Michelangelo from TMNT shows up here, Officer Dick and Constable Richard are here, both voiced and modeled by Jack Black. Yeah, Steve from Minecraft himself. The Birdman is here, which is just fucking weird in a completely different art style, and then there's a bunch of cool things you get to add on to the game and filters, and I think the shop's actually pretty cool in this game. One thing I will knock for this game though is that they're basically charging $20 to play as the Doomslayer and Revenant. I mean, it is really cool that they're in here. They have some awesome tricks, animations, and there's a bunch of Doom music, but like $20? Really? Like, yeah, you get a few other things here and there and some early access, early air quotes. 20 is just too much, but my dumbass bought it anyway because I'm just a huge Doom shill. On top of all of this, we have the online multiplayer, which I haven't played a ton of, but it seems to be pretty good. The free skate is fun, there's a decent amount of modes here, and I'm sure plenty of people are going to flock to it for a long time. And speaking of flocking to for a long time, let's talk about the soundtrack. I love Pro Skater 3 and 4 soundtrack to pieces, so I was very curious to see which tracks would return from 3 and 4, and while there are, like a dozen or so that return, a lot of them did not, unfortunately. A majority of the music is new tracks, and while it's decent enough, it's not 3 and 4's music, damn it. A song from Pro Skater 5 even returns here, which is just odd. Like, I enjoy most of the new music, but this is also a remake of 3 and 4. I want the 3 and 4 music for the most part, but you know what? At least what we got here, it was pretty good, even if there is a bunch of missing music. But let's wrap things up here. Overall, 3+4 is still a pretty great game, and it's one of the best Tony Hawk games ever made. I mean, at the end of the day, it still is a remake of 2 of the best Tony Hawk games. It'd be pretty hard to muck it up, but with Tony Hawk, you just never know. Are they the most faithful remakes? Absolutely not, but I still think the game is excellent and totally worth your time, especially if you enjoy 3 and 4. I'm honestly pretty torn on whether or not I prefer 1+2 or 3+4, but at the end of the day, I'm going to give the edge to 3+4 because I personally enjoy Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4 more than 1 and 2, but both games are on a very similar quality and they're both worth your time. I really have no problem giving this game my highest recommendation and think it's the best skateboarding game to come out in years, many years, and I'd be surprised if any other game can top it anytime soon.